Alright, so today we are going to talk about graphing piecewise functions. Yesterday was all evaluating, now we're going to graph. So I give you 4 steps here. Evaluate the function at the boundary point. Well, this is the boundary point right here for 6. So we are going to start at 6. That is my x value because that's my domain. I'm going to plug that in to this equation. Well, it's only a 2. So every y value is always going to be a 2. So I'll explain that again. So evaluate the function at the boundary point. So here's my boundary point. That's my x value. I plug it in to get my y value. Now it says determine open or closed. So open circle versus closed circle. This is going to be greater than and less than. This is less than or equal to and greater than or equal to. So if there's an equal to sign, that means it's greater than. Open circle, that means it is greater than or less than. No equals. Okay? So this is going to be an open circle because it's just less than. Now we want to pick a different point. Another point is something less than 6 because x is less than 6. So we can pick 5, you can pick 2, you can pick -4. Doesn't matter which point you choose. So I plug that in. Again, it's just 2. If you get to pick the point, that's the direction the graph is going to go. So let's graph this one first so we can kind of see what we're doing. So 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up 2, that is an open circle. 5 and 2, that's where my arrow is going to go. 5, 2, 5, 2, that's the direction my arrow is going. So that is my first piece of my piecewise function. Again, we're going to start with 6 because that's my boundary point. I plug it in, I always get -3 because there's no x value. So every y value is going to be -3. Now, but this has an equal to underneath, so this is going to be a closed circle. Now, I get to pick something that's greater than or equal to 6. We had a few things that, could I do 6 again because it's equal? Well, we already did 6, so we got to pick a different number. So something greater, I'll do 7. I plug that in, every y value is always -3, and that's where my arrow is going. So now I graph 6, -3, and I go 7, -3 is this point right here, and that is the direction my arrow is going. So that is our first piecewise function that we graphed. If you need to rewind it, go ahead. We're going to do the same exact thing now for a different problem. So now we actually have an x value in here. So our boundary point is at 2. That's my x value. And I'm going to plug it in. 4 times 2 is 8 minus 3. 8 minus 3 is 5. This is going to be an open circle because it's just greater than. Now, I want something that's greater than 2 because x is greater than 2. So something that's greater, I'll pick 3. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 minus 3 is 9. And that's the direction of the arrow. So 2, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is an open circle. 3, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There is my first piece. Over here, I'm going to plug in a 2 because that's my boundary point. 1/2 times 2 is 1, plus 3 is 4. That is going to be a closed circle because it's equal to. Now I need something less than 2 Now we can do 1, but to make life a little easier, I'm going to pick 0. And if you look here, if I would do 1, I would get a half, but if I do 0, I'm just going to get 3. You could do 1, you could do 0, you could do -2, -4, doesn't matter, as long as it's something less than 2. So 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 is a closed circle, and then 0, 3 is where the arrow is going. So that's my second piecewise function. So what I want you to do now is I want you to do this problem. I want you to pause it and do this piecewise function. See if you can come up with the graph, and then we will go over it together, and I'll show you what mine is. Alright, so these are my 2 points that I did. I did -1. Obviously I had to. -1 I had to. That's open and that's closed. If I plugged in a -1, I used my calculator, found -0.33. Here I plugged in a -1 and I got a 2, and that's closed. Here I needed something less than -1, so that would be, I did -3 because it made our y value easier. If you did -2, that's fine. Here something greater was 0, so 0 times -2 is 0. So now I just have to plot those points. So -1, -0.33 is there, and -3, 1, 2, 3, and 1 is where my arrow is going. Now, -1, 2 is a closed circle, and 0, 0 is where the arrow is going. So, your graph would look like this. If you have questions, ask the people around you. We're going to do one more, and this is going to be a little bit different. We're going to have 3 different equations. Okay, so sometimes you're going to get 3 different equations. You can't quite see. This is -1, and x is less than -3. My spacing was a little off there. So I need to start with -3. And my y value is always going to be -1. And that's going to be an open circle. I'm going a little bit faster because we've kind of talked about all of them. If you need to go back and hear an explanation, go back. So now we have -3, -1. And I want something that's less than -3, so I'm going to hit -4. And that's where my arrow is going to go. And my y value is always -1. So, -3, -1, 1, 2, 3, It's an open circle, -4. So that is my graph. My first piece, I should say, of my piecewise function. Now, we have yet to do one with 2 boundaries. We've only done one with 1 boundary. This one is actually easier. We have a 3, -3, and we have a 2. Those are my 2 x values. I don't get to pick. That is just what my x values are. So now -3, so 3/4 times -3 plus 2, I have -0.25. And that's going to be a closed circle. This is going to be an open, because it's right here is open. This is going to be closed. So if I plug in a 2, I get 3.5. So -3, -0.25. So it's really close there. And then 2 and 1, 2, 3.5. So this one it's like a line segment. It goes from closed to open. The other ones had arrows. This one does not. This one, we start at 2. We plug it in. So -4 plus 3 is going to be -1. I plugged it in. And that's going to be my closed circle. Now I pick something that's greater than 2, so I'll pick 3. So -6 plus 3 is -3. And that's where my arrow is going. So now 2, -1 is a closed circle. 1, 3, -1, 2, 3. That's where my arrow is going. So your graph should look like that. So it has 3 pieces now, because the graph had 3 equations. So what you are going to do is you are going to just do all of this on your homework. Ask each other questions. Remember these 4 steps. And if you have to rewatch the video, you can do that. All right, good luck.